Hi everyone, I'm Oliver and welcome back to OC Aviary for Breeding British Birds episode 17. Now coming up on the show today, we're going to reveal what are those mystery chicks. We're going to see how the last round youngsters are getting on as they begin to jump the nests. And finally, we're going to talk about the plans for the birds that have now finished breeding. In last week's episode, we finally found out that the twites had had some success. We managed to get some full eggs off them and they hatched about 10 days ago now. Now, we had 2 chicks last week. Sadly, we lost one of those chicks. It was considerably smaller than the other. I'd say it was probably 3 days younger, and they stopped feeding that chick just before I could ring it. But we do have one youngster that is looking fantastic, and it's actually currently sat in the nest site calling for its mother. However, it's been jumping the nest over the past 2 days or so. It's been running about on the floor. It's not looking at all to pick up any food, but its parents, or all 3 birds that are in there, are actually beginning to feed it now, which is really good news because they're all contributing, and that chick is looking really promising. Obviously rung it a few days ago now, and you know, we've got a baby twite this season that I'm over the moon with, because it's been such a hard season with them, getting so many clear eggs. To finally, towards the end of the season, get some success has made it really worth it. And of course, I always say quality over quantity any day. And if we've bred a twite, just one twite this season, it's a movement in the right direction, and I'm really pleased with that. So usually when we talk about the green finches, we're usually outside in the flight, so we're going to nip out there in a second. But we've had some good success, as we saw in last week's episode, with 2 pairs of the green finches, and it's been exactly the same this week. This pair, I thought they had 2 chicks, it turned out to be 3 chicks. So there's 3 chicks in that nest site over there, and I apologise the footage isn't too clear, but those 3 chicks are looking really good. I rung them about 5 days ago now. The parents are doing a super job in rearing them, and I think it's just in time as well, because they are beginning to molt, and I'm concerned that there's probably 2 weeks left of feeding before those chicks even look to start feeding themselves. So I'm hoping we'll keep them off molting just for the moment, and we'll get those chicks to jump the nest and begin feeding before they fully start to molt, but they're looking really good. Also, down in the far corner, we've got 3 greeny chicks being fostered by a pair of feeder canaries. Now, like I said in last week's episode, this is a last resort option. I wouldn't normally be fostering any native birds out under canaries, but we've got them as that backup plan. We've got them as that insurance policy if there is a problem, and that's exactly why those chicks are under there. The parents were outside in the flights and they began molting before even laying those eggs. I was surprised that the eggs were even full, but they were full. I knew that she wouldn't feed them because she was further into the molt than ideal, so we popped them under those canaries, and they have been absolutely fantastic. I can't fault them one bit. They've been feeding them all the time, pumping them full of food because they are hungry chicks at the end of the day, and they've just done a great job. So those chicks were rung again about 5 days ago now. I would expect by next week's episode they will 100% have jumped the nest, because they are pretty big now and starting to overflow that nest site completely. So some more good news, and that's 3 chicks off a pair we haven't yet bred off this season, so that's just another one off the checklist. And a quick trip outside to the flights for the green finches. The rest of them now, it is completely the end of the breeding season. We've took the nest sites down off the back and the front, and we've begun splitting them up. So we've got a couple of cock birds across these first 2 flights. We've got the hens in here. There's about 6 or 7 hens in here at the moment. They're all looking really good. The cock birds is 4 or 5 across the 2. We obviously put them in smaller groups because they can be aggressive to each other. And we've got youngsters in the end 2 flights, and they're all looking really good. Now, obviously, because they begin to molt, they do get stressed more at this time of year. It is a physically taxing time for them. So I've put some baths on. They've got big water trays on the floor. All the feed is up on the front, and they're even getting some germinated seed in there as well as their normal seed mix and some egg food. Vitamins in the water, and I will give them a dose of Baycox very soon to clear them out as they begin to molt. Over the past few weeks, you guys have been desperate for an update on what those mystery chicks turned out to be. I can now give you that update. So for anyone who doesn't know, we bred 2 mystery chicks in this flight cage down here. Their mother was a green finch. Their father could have been one of 3 species, a greenfinch, a Norwich canary, or a European linnet. Well, the first chick, disappointingly, turned out to be just a straight greenfinch, but the thing is that we've got a little bit of a bonus there. It's another greenfinch to add to the mix that we've got. That's now joined the others outside in the flights alongside the parents. But that second chick turned out to be something a little bit different. Its father was the Norwich Canary cockbird, so we bred a greenfinch mule in the flight cage, which is obviously exciting, a bit of a bonus, but sadly, as sometimes these things do, we actually lost that chick. It was a little bit younger, it was a little bit smaller than the other chick, and it just couldn't quite compete for food. I wasn't home at the time, and sadly that chick perished within 24 hours of leaving the nest, which is really, really a shame. But it was in fact a greenfinch mule, which is the first one that I've ever bred, because I've never bred greenie mules before. It had a slightly variegated tail. There was a couple of light feathers in that tail, one on the wing, and that was it. But either way, it's a disappointment that we lost that chick, a bonus that we've got a greenfinch out of it, and maybe that's the news that you guys are expecting. Maybe you're expecting something different, but oh well, that's birds, isn't it? And we'll try again next year, of course. So the season has come to an end with the lesser red polls, but it's come to a very spectacular end because we've had a lot of success this past few weeks. Of course, as we looked at last week, the guys in the top corner, these two chicks are looking great. They're now properly feeding themselves, eating egg food, eating a bit of germinated seed and some pinkies. So I'm going to split them up from their mother very soon and wean them off, and they'll join the other chicks that are over here now. We've got 3 chicks in here that are being reared by both parents. They've filled out a lot since last week and actually look a little bit more like red polls now and have filled out to a better size. They're looking really good. They're starting to pick up a bit of food. The parents are teaching them to forage a little bit, but again, it's going to be probably 2 weeks before we wean those guys off. And for the chicks that are down in the bottom corner, those 3 are looking great. I got the colours a little bit wrong with those guys. I thought it was 2 cobalts and 1 normal. It turns out to be 2 normals, 1 cobalt, but they're looking really good. I can actually see one of the chicks trying to feed itself right now on a bit of egg food. But again, these guys are about 14 days old, so it's a really early days at this moment in time. So I'm not going to look to split up from the parents for at least another week, but they're looking really good as well. So that takes us total, if all of them survive and all get on all right, to 11 red polls that we've bred this season that have been weaned off. Obviously, we can't guarantee them through the molt, but we'll do the best to preserve them as much as we can. For the Canaries then, we've had an absolutely outstanding season with the 12 pairs of them. If you remember last week, we had a pair up here and a pair down below that were on standby in case we needed them for the young twites. However, of course, we didn't end up needing them. We lost that one twite chick quite surprisingly. The other one is absolutely fine being fed by its parents. So we've split up those 2 pairs of Canaries now. We've put the hens down in this flight cage, some of the cockbirds up here, and another row of cockbirds down there. I'm trying to keep the cockbirds in smaller groups because they can still be aggressive at this time of the year if they haven't fully started molting. We've also got a pair just finishing rearing some chicks down here. That's a pair of Razas. They've got 2 chicks, and the hen's actually laid 2 eggs, but she's not sitting them because it's far too late in the season now, and the cockbirds started molting as well. We've put a couple of the red polls on these sort of 3 blocks now, so any of the pairs that had stopped breeding for the season, that was it. We've split them up. We've put the cockbirds here, the hens here, and I've actually moved the 3 chicks that we've bred so far this season into the top, ready to be joined by the rest of them that we have bred later on. And I've put some millet sprays in for them. That's great for keeping them active, getting them acrobatic, keeping them fit and active whilst they are molting. And I think there's 1 or 2 of them that haven't lost a feather yet, but I expect to within the next 2 weeks or so. So I've put vitamins in the water now for all of the birds that have begun molting, and they're looking absolutely fine. We've given everything a deep clean. So in the next few weeks, when we've split everything up from breeding, that includes all the rest of the red polls, the twites, the greenies and stuff, we'll have another really big deep clean out, go around with disinfectant, make it absolutely spotless in here, and then we'll begin putting birds into larger flight cages, you know, Canaries will go in the big 6-foot flights, same probably for the red poles, and then we'll have big flight cages for the rest of the other things like the brambles, the linnets, whatever else I can find, because I'm sure I've got loads of birds, as I always do, to go through with the molt now we've finished the breeding season. So that's it for episode 17 of Breeding British Birds. I really hope you've enjoyed the show today. So if you have and you'd like to see more from OC Aviary, please make sure to subscribe down below. If you've enjoyed it today, do smash a like on it as well. That is very much appreciated. And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook for daily updates and behind the scenes footage of all of our birds. Now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.